What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 6 of the Real Estate Take podcast, and I'm your host, Wendell Butler. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Bruno Maluf. Bruno has been in business since he was 18 years old and in real estate investing since he was 22 years old. He acquired his first 4-unit property with the last of his liquid cash in 2020, and since then has flipped hundreds of homes and has done countless deals. He consistently scaled in his acquisitions, as well as created a construction company, which both have generated 7 figures in revenue. Today, Bruno is now 26 and still growing aggressively. He is now focused on 2 things. 1, developing multifamily real estate, as well as 2, teaching others how to find consistent off-market deals themselves and partnering with them. So let's welcome in Bruno. Bruno, how are you doing today?
Wendell, I am great, brother. Thank you for having me, man. I love this podcast that you're putting on here. It's a pleasure to be a part of it.
I'm glad that we got you on because you have a lot of experience that I think all the viewers would learn a lot from in such a short amount of time too, because you only started when you were 22, you're 26 now, and you already have companies under your belt as well.
Thank you, man. It's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to where it takes me, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a long game. First, I just want to get into just a little bit about yourself. What got you into real estate as a whole? Because I know you weren't doing this your whole life. And what's your backstory? And just dive into that a little bit for us.
I am first-generation immigrant. Me and my family came here from Brazil when I was 2 years old, and we had no other extended family here. My dad had maybe like a couple friends who came to America, but besides that, very little English, like $100 in his pocket, the tried and true immigrant story. My father worked really hard to provide a living for us here. Along the way, I had a little brother, just a really tight-knit family, and I always saw them do their best, kind of struggle with money. They never really figured out the finances and how to get out of the rat race and all that. And eventually, it got the best of them, and unfortunately, for financial reasons, they had to move back to Brazil. And my brother and I were facing this decision whether or not we wanted to stay in America by ourselves and just try our best and make it work, or go back to Brazil. And I don't know if it was tempting for him. For me, maybe for like a moment it was tempting because I had like my whole family back there and I never met a lot of them, and it would have been really cool. But I always knew that from a young age, America was the place to build wealth. And I was very, very happy that they took that sacrifice and changed their whole life just to give me the opportunity to grow up here. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to stay." And I tried a bunch of things while I was here. First, I went to college. I was a terrible student, did not go well at all. To UConn for 3 years. Some of my roommates at that time and good friends are really established engineers and such now, and they're doing really well, but it was not the life for me, and they will attest to that for sure. I ended up skipping a bunch of classes and not doing as well as I should have, making some bad decisions, and dropped out in my junior year. I was in the computer science engineering career path or study path at UConn, and I dropped out, and I said, I got to do something else with my life. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it definitely wasn't going to be school. I had this one really good friend of mine in childhood. His name is Marco. He's now a partner of mine in majority of my business enterprises. And he was also in a similar mindset. Like, he felt pressure to go to school, but really, he was like, fuck school. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Him and I dropped out very similar times. And I remember when we first realized we were on the same page, we're like, yo, let's start a business together. And Marco had messaged this group chat that we had. And he was like, yo, guys, we're going to start a Bitcoin company and we're going to get rich as fuck. Like, let's do this. And this was in 2016. So before Bitcoin was even like at 10K the first time, I think. So we had a huge opportunity on our hands and nobody wanted to do it except for me and Marco. We had another friend who wanted to do it, but he ended up dropping out. Marco and I put like everything on the line. We had this really good business plan, but we were like 17 and 18 years old and we were young and naive. At a crazy time when these coins were trading for a huge fraction of what they are today. We still ended up losing all of our money. And we lost all of our investor money too, because we raised money from like friends and family. We blew all of our credit cards, maxed them out. We signed leases that we couldn't fulfill on. It was terrible. But there was a lot of learning lessons, bro. It was a really painful time in my life. But we learned a lot from it. A lot about what not to do in business. Probably accelerated like 5 years of learning packed into one for us there. We worked at restaurants, bartending and serving tables to pay people back. I did that for it took me like 2 years to pay everybody back. But I wanted to make sure I could clean the slate. I didn't want to leave anybody hanging. And then I tried a couple other businesses. I did some e-commerce stuff. I tried some online social media marketing, partnered up with some people here and there. Never really hit the ground running. I remember I was like in debt again. I had to pay some money off. So I went and got a sales job. I was selling cars at Toyota. I was doing okay. I was probably making 6 figures and then some. Thought 6 figures would be good. I need to make way more money than this. I can't do anything. And I was looking for more ways to make money, I tried some network marketing stuff. That went okay for me, but it really wasn't doing it. Like, I really wanted to make like $100,000 at a time. I really wanted to find a way that I could do that. Like, if I can just figure out a way that I can just make hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time, and I'll do whatever it takes to get to the end of that over and over and over again. At that time, I was selling cars and Marco decided to become a real estate agent. He had it took him a long time to close first deals. As I'm sure you know, real estate agency in the beginning is tough. Tell me about it. And he's like, yeah, bro, I'm about to close this deal. I'm going to make like 15 grand in commission. I'm getting both sides, blah, blah, blah stuff. I was like, awesome. And then one day he closed it and he was so happy and he like showed me the commission statement and everything. He's like, let's celebrate. So I went to his house. We opened like a couple of beers or something. And he's showing me this HUD, closing docs. Look here. It's like a commission to be paid to agents. It's like, look here. It's like 14 grand. I'm like, let's go. And I'm looking at the thing at the bottom of the HUD. It was like cash to seller, $180,000 or something. And I'm like, bro, who made 180 grand here on this thing? And he's like, oh, the guy who flipped the house. He bought it for you. I'm like, how can we do that? And Marco was like, oh, we could probably just do exactly what this guy did. Then I quit my job that day. What happened was he found me a 4-unit first. He was like, yo, let's buy some real estate. You'll quit your job and we'll do this full time. I wanted to quit my job that day, but I knew I needed some income to get a loan. Took out an FHA loan on a 4-unit. This was in February of 2020. So I got lucky with the timing there. This was a 4-unit in Putnam, Connecticut, where I live. Bought it for $250 with a partner, FHA. So put very, very little money down. Spent a little bit of time and money fixing it up, my own hand, and some help with some friends, which was awesome. Probably spent like 20 grand in rehab.
Yep.
Today it's worth like 430 or something, but I didn't end up selling it. I might sell it, who knows? But currently it brings in $5,500 a month in rent, and the mortgage is $1,700 a month. Just been a cash cow for me.
Oh yeah.
But once I got that one, I got addicted. I was like, do this and make like $3 grand at a time and build $100,000 in equity. I was like, all right, cool. Then I quit my job, like for real. This was in March 2020, right before COVID went down.
Yeah.
So I had just quit my job, and then a week after that, everyone was getting free money from unemployment. Anybody who didn't quit their job. At first, I was like, no, I missed out on free money. But then I saw what the free money did to people. Probably better that I don't overdose on that drug.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I started looking for more ways to make money. What do we do, Marco? How do we find flips? And the best way to source deals is to go direct to seller. On market, there's nothing. It's too much competition. Marco trained me on wholesaling real estate and let me run the acquisition side. And that's how we started our first 7-figure company. We scaled the wholesaling really fast. We just found out how we could get in touch with these motivated sellers over and over again and found buyers until we had enough money ourselves to be the buyer. And we started flipping houses. We started a construction company at the same time because we didn't want to have to give up a lot of the profits to GCs when we could do it ourselves. Those scaled hand in hand, helped each other out a lot. And fast forward to today, we've done hundreds of deals and millions of dollars in acquisition and construction revenue too. So
yeah, I mean, that's just amazing how you went from just buying like a 4-family to just digging in and getting into the flipping side of the business and then building your own company, like construction company within it too, assisting people with acquisitions, even to today, helping other people buy real estate and also partnering with them, all from just out on a limb, kind of looking at a HUD form and saying, hey, that guy made a lot of money, so why can't we do that too?
Straight up, bro. Looking for a way forever. And when I saw that and Marco showed me it was possible, I was like, this is it.
It's funny because Marco is like probably pumped about the 15 grand and you're like, that's awesome. And then you guys both looked at that and you're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are we not doing that?
I was like, sign me up.
That's awesome. But let's go back a little bit. I just want to get more in depth about like your first property that you got. Can you just break down what was going through your mind for your first 4-family? Did Marco kind of have an idea of what the goal was with it and kind of guided you, or did you like self-educate yourself and kind of hop into it yourself? Yeah. Just what was going through your mind during that process?
Yeah, good question. So I worked selling cars at Toyota for a little over a year. And during that time, I knew it wasn't like an end all be all for me. I knew it was like a stepping stone, just like serving tables, just like everything else. And I was like probably 3 months in when I had realized real estate investing was going to be a huge part of my future. So I was pumping in these AirPods, well, probably not these, probably some older ones, but in AirPods every day when I wasn't talking to a client, listening to Bigger Pockets, listening to other real estate podcasts. A bunch of local guys were putting me on. I was going to every networking event I could. I was asking Marco questions all the time because he was out here prospecting every day trying to find clients on the retail side. And it was like a treasure trove of information for me. I got very, very lucky. Yeah. I mean, you know what they say, spend time around people who are smarter than you. I got the fucking front row seat to that very early on. So very grateful for that. But I milked it. I milked it for everything I had. Every spare moment that I had was spent figuring out how I would do it once I had the opportunity. Like how I would maximize the deal, how I would buy the deal, how I would finance it. Even exit strategies that I'm using now, I was thinking about back in 2020, 2019.
Yep.
The first deal, to go back to your question, the 4-unit that Marco brought to me was off market and he had both sides of it. And he was like, listen, bro, this is a friend of ours. His family owns this. They're collecting very little rent. They were getting like $600 a month in rent in each one. And they needed work, cosmetics. But their main business, the seller, was a car dealership. They were friends of ours. Like we knew them. They were really good at running car dealerships, buying, fixing, selling cars and all that. They're really good at real estate too. And they actually, I looked up to them a lot in business when I was first getting started. I still do today. But they were gracious enough to allow us to make an offer for it. I wanted it so bad, bro. I just wanted to get into the game. And I knew a 4-unit FHA, even if I paid more than what it was worth, I knew it was worth me buying it to become the person I wanted to become. So I did, and I paid over what it appraised for and covered the difference. And it was probably the best investment I ever made in my life still. Even though I've made deals where I've made millions of dollars, this one has allowed me to even get in front of those deals.
Yeah.
I overpaid for this fourplex, and it's made me $3,000 a month in and $200,000 in equity, and also catapulted my whole career.
Yeah, they say, what is it? The number one consumer percentage debt, whatever, is your living expense. So the second that you can house hack something and that's what you're doing. You house hack, you live in one unit, rent out the other. It just cuts down your expenses. You can use that money elsewhere really quick.
Yeah, not to mention, bro, I can't believe I forgot to bring this up the first time, but right before I had found this place, or Marco found this place for me, I was like on the verge of homelessness because my parents had just gone back to Brazil and they lost the house in foreclosure. I'm over here laying in my bed, like alone by myself in this house that my parents are losing to foreclosure. They already left the country. I'd like just dropped them off at the airport. I'm like thinking, like, what am I going to do? Like the bank's going to seize this house any day now. Like I gotta, I can find an apartment and move in, whatever. But it's like, that would set me back so much. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then I just kept looking and this opportunity presented itself. So I just jumped on it right away. And it was a long fought battle, man. It probably took me like 6 months to get approved for the loan. It was a pain in the ass, but every single hoop I jumped through was totally worth it.
Yeah. Because you were a car salesman. So you probably didn't have like 2 years of commission from car sales. So you had to like,
correct. So I negotiated with my boss, bro. I was like, I'll clean and take pictures of all the cars and put them on the website. Just pay me a salary on top of the commission. And he did. Yeah. And not only did that help with qualifying, but it also helped with giving me more me time to focus during work and learn. Like when you're sales only, and sales is awesome, but when you're sales, if you're not prospecting or in front of a client, you're wasting your time. I had this other thing that I had to do, and it was paying me, helping me qualify for mortgages, and also gave me time to just listen to whatever, cranking out audiobooks like you wouldn't believe, bro. And listening to podcasts 10 episodes a day. I was just addicted.
Yeah. I mean, Bigger Pockets and those podcasts are great for you to get started too, because you gain the confidence, you gain the education into everything, but you can't really do anything until you execute. You got to take all that. You can only learn so much, and then you just got to hop in and just do it
straight up
and learn as you go. That's awesome that your first deal came to you like that. And hey, did you end up buying, speaking of foreclosures, you end up buying your parents' house from them and flipping it? That would have been an amazing story.
Dude, as much as I wanted to, bro, the bank wouldn't let me.
Really?
Because they owed more than it was worth, so they had to do a short sale. Okay. And you can't do short sales to family. And
it has to be like arm's length something, right?
Actually, but a good friend of mine bought it. One of my first cash buyers, you might know him, Luke Walker. He ended up buying it. I think he flipped it. I wonder if he sold it. I'll check. But that's a convo for another day.
So you went from house hacking to 4-family, and then did you always immediately know that you wanted to start flipping just from looking at that initial HUD form? You just knew like flipping big checks is what you wanted?
It solidified it after I watched Marco flip his first house.
Yep.
And he made 6 figures on that too. And I was like, yeah, this is what I was looking for.
I just want the big checks. Even if it's a lot of work, it's worth it because you probably put as much work into selling like 4 cars as you did to just flip one house. If you think about it,
more than that.
All the prospecting and stuff, and you probably don't get anywhere close to as much commission as like flipping a house as you do.
Straight up.
You see that, you kind of eyes light up and you're like, all right, let's get into flipping. So can you go over just how was your first flip? Did it end up being the way that you wanted it, or did you learn a ton from it? Was it a base hit? Was it a home run? Talk a little bit about that.
My first flip.
If you can go back that far.
I know it very well, bro. 38 Belleville Road in Killingly. I bought it with Marco and we had another partner, and we raised hard money for it, and we used pretty much all of our liquid cash to buy it. Yeah. We put the down payment down, we had to front the holding costs, and we had to front the rehab. We did it. We bought it for 130. We put like 30 into it, and then we went to sell it, and it wouldn't sell. And it was sitting on the market, and it wouldn't sell. We listed it in the middle of the winter, first of all, which is in New England.
Hard time.
You don't do that. But we finally got an offer on it for 180, and we thought we had to take it or the market was going to turn, we were going to lose it. So we took the offer, and then they had inspection, and things came up at inspection, and it didn't go well. And they were like, yeah, we're going to back out unless you do a whole new roof. And this was in January when there was ice on the roof. Oh, we were like, dude, I kid you not. Me and our crew worked there for 3 days straight, stripped the roof. First day, we took a flamethrower to the roof, melted all the ice, stripped all the shingles down. I have pictures of this because it's just such a fucking hilarious story. And then we bought spotlights, wrapped them around our head, and did night roofing to get it all prepped for the next day. Then the next day we did all the underlayment, the water and ice, the drip edge. And the last day we banged out all the shingles in one day, bro. It was legendary. And we ended up selling the property and making $400 profit.
Hey, it's better than losing money, right?
Yeah, but man, let me tell you, the things I learned, bro, between my first buy and hold, the FHA 4 unit, and my first flip, making $400, less than that if you count all the time I spent there. It was totally worth in all the experience that I got, much more than any payout could have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, you treat it like free, it's like free school. It's like going to college for, real estate investing or flipping or whatever, and it's free school to learn all that.
Not to mention the networking, like the hard money lender. Yeah, I didn't make a killer profit, but he made great money working with us. Yeah. So he wanted to do more more deals with us. And we had already solved deal flow. And then we got a chance to try on another deal and iterate better and do better at managing labor and do better at choosing materials. And then every time we did it, we kept getting better and kept getting better terms on the financing. So there was less friction. So, I mean, like the first one, it's like the first time you play a sport, it's probably, you're going to look like an idiot. You're going to feel like an idiot. Everyone's going to laugh at you, but
yeah,
you got to do it anyway.
What's the thing? Like a lot of people get into real estate, they do like one deal and it doesn't work. And they're like, screw this. Like, this isn't for me. But you look at other people that are successful in real estate and doing well, like our first deals weren't great. Like you just want to break even. That's probably a win. And you get all the learning experience from it. And then the next one is when you build and you start building that snowball of just doing better and learning from each one. And you probably still learn from your flips today. Like I bet you bet you the last flip you did, you learned from a flip before that you put into that flip. And obviously your processes are probably a lot better now. You have a team and everything that goes in and does exactly what they know what to do, what you like to do, and kind of flip stuff on your own. And you probably have a process of like every flip kind of looks similar because you have the same material, same everything going in there. It cuts costs and everything like that. So yeah, actually let's talk about your most recent flip then. Comparing your first flip, which involved you standing on top of the roofs with a flamethrower, shingling in the nighttime when neighbors were probably like, what the hell is going on? To your most recent flip. Can you go over just your most recent one, like how the process has totally changed and what is better from before and how you approach things differently now?
For sure. So my most recent flip that I sold was a single family home in Putnam, like a 2,000 and change square foot colonial. We bought it for 120. We put 90 into it and it sold for 350 in 3 days. We finished the flip in record time. And this one was way different. We already knew exactly what it was going to look like at the end before we started. We already had all the materials picked out. We had gotten to the point with our lender that he fronted all the costs for us. So we didn't have to put any money out of pocket at all. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we could have basically pre-sold the thing if we wanted to. Like that's how cookie cutter it was at this point.
Yeah.
So I guess that was my last flip. We tend to do more burrs now, and anything that's not a single family, if I can hold it and rent it out and do a refi if we need to, I'll do that instead. And those are like butter too, so much less friction and headache and heartache than the first one. That's for sure.
Yeah, plus you can get some if you get profit out of the refinance too, you can get that stuff tax free. Keep deploying it out. Can you just quickly go over what a burr is for the audience and why you went towards that route, other than just trying to sell every single flip?
Yes, honestly, I wish I didn't have to burr, but we're not all born with those blessings. Like honestly, if I just $100 million net worth at birth, I would just be buying stuff on the market and holding it for the long term. But I came up with absolutely nothing to my name and I wanted to build wealth. I figured there were a couple different ways I could do it. I could get a bunch of cash, make these 100 grand checks, 200 grand checks, however I could, whether it be flipping houses or whatnot, and then put them into good turnkey deals. Or, and that's one way to get into these deals that I wanted to get into. If you have the money to put down, you make the money and you put it down. Or if you want to do both steps in one, the BRRRR model works extremely well. And BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat if you do it over and over again. Mm-hmm. So the idea is you buy something with enough value add potential in it that once you do the rehab, the second R, you're able to rent it out and refinance it to get all of your capital back out, allowing you to scale without having a bunch of money to your name to begin with. These deals typically are more multifamily than single family. However, I have BRRR'd 1, 2, 3, 4 single family homes that I still own today that I'm about to do a 1031 into. So you can get creative. But that was back when we had like 3% interest rate and you could sell a single family home like hotcakes. But these days I would say BRRRRs are better for multifamilies, and the real advantage is you can go in, negotiate a good deal because of all the value add that needs to be done to the property, get a lender to finance you all the money and the rehab between purchase and rehab. And then at the end, when you do a refinance, it's based on the new value of the asset and you get paid tax-free or tax-deferred anyway to infinity if you want to. Yeah. And you're able to collect those rents forever, benefit from appreciation of the property, depreciation on your taxes, and all of the rental income that comes with it.
Yeah. I mean, the BRRRR model, it's talked about a lot on Bigger Pockets, obviously, because people love doing that. A lot of people in the Midwest love doing it with single families when they're a little lower amount. Multifamilies in the spaces that you're in the Northeast, like Connecticut, Massachusetts area, there's a lot of multifamilies up there. And if you can get more doors and be able to BRRRR them all at the same time compared to going single family, it's probably better if you're going to hold them because you get more of that rental income. Plus you have less risk, or if one tenant leaves, you have other tenants paying the mortgage and stuff.
Exactly.
As well as being in that multifamily space is just the more tenants, the better. The more tenants under one roof, the better for most cases. For me personally, some people like to stick to single family because it's kind of easier, I guess, but less roofs the better because roofs are expensive and you don't want to stand on every single one and flamethrow them.
Straight up, bro. Or siding, windows, all of it, man. It gets expensive.
Exactly. Currently, you started to switch your focus, it seems. Now you're focusing more on multifamilies rather than single family flips and
Yep.
even developing them. What is your current thoughts on that, and what's your drive currently and like your vision for the long term as you're focusing on that for yourself and your business?
Great questions, man. What drove that sort of thinking is I have a goal to have 10,000 units in my organization. There's two ways I could do it, right? I could buy it or I could build it. And because I already have this construction company, because I already have experience sourcing materials internationally, I have a warehouse, I have plenty of experience, and I'm very, very bankable. I think a better business model would be to figure out how to build units at scale at 70% of the appraised value after build, then do a cash out refi there and scale that to infinity. I have a pretty detailed plan in mind, my partner and I, and we have one piece of land that we own in cash that we're about to finalize the paperwork, and I think we should be signing on Friday, maybe Monday, where we are doing a syndication to build property from the ground up. And if it goes well as we pencil it out to, we are going to just scale that, spend our efforts focusing on the acquisition side, just focusing on buying land that we can build based on zoning. And we're going to build a bunch of 4 units and a bunch of 11 units.
That's awesome. In the process of building, like I know you have your own construction company and stuff, do you envision, what are some problems that you envisioned just from going from regular construction, flipping a house that's already there, to developing? What are some roadblocks and some bumps that you have to learn about, and what you have learned, the difference of kind of developing? So like with zoning and everything along those lines, can you break that down?
Dude, that's a great question. And I haven't even done my first successful one yet, but I have failed one. And I can tell you a lot that I learned failing that one. So when I went to go do my first new build, I had my partner and I owned the land in cash, and we knew what build we wanted to build. So we went online and bought the building, and we did we reverse engineered what it would be worth at the end. My partner, Marco, he's a broker. He just looked at what this type of building would sell for. And we used that appraisal to go to a bank and say, hey, will you finance the build for this? It's going to be worth this much. Here's an after build appraisal. We're going to build it for a fraction of that, and we're going to profit on the rest. And we already own the land in cash. One thing I learned was if you think that you have to be very particular about the lenders that you choose when it comes to like purchase and rehab loans, you have to be extremely careful about the lenders that you use when it comes to new construction development loans, because they will lie through their teeth and say whatever it takes and push you along. And there's a lot more fees and time delays involved in new construction than there are in rehab. I mean, the holding costs, the opportunity costs, the headache of doing these people, and the actual dollar cost of going through each one of these steps is much higher. You want to make sure that you're working with people in every facet of your team that you really, really trust.
Yeah.
I would have rather these guys have told me, Bruno, no fucking way that you're going to get approved for this type of loan, building this type of product. Now I know that if I just built a smaller house that I would still profit the same amount for, I could get it funded no problem. Or if I just went for private funding instead of bank funding, I could have got it funded no problem. That's what I'm getting done now. Another thing I've learned is building departments can be a pain in the ass, and there are multiple different permits that you have to get when you go to build. At least in my neck of the woods, you have to get a zoning permit, you have to get a driveway permit, you have to get a building permit, like for the actual plans itself. And there's like another permit that you have to get to. And then if you have septic and other stuff where it's not so easy as connecting to public works, then you have to get specific plans approved for those, and the bureaucracy is ridiculous. It can take them weeks at a time to review each one of these steps. I was certainly overly optimistic the first time. I was like, yeah, in a week I'll get my building permits, and in 2 weeks I'll break ground and the trees will be cleared and I'm ready to, not even close. But failing that was fantastic. Although it cost tens of thousands of dollars, it definitely taught me a lot of lessons about how to go about building from the ground up. And now I'm much more well versed and capable of it.
Well, I think that's why like a lot of people, there's a lot less people that do building because of the whole complexity of it. But once you finally do break into that specialty and be able to do that, then it just opens up your whole like real estate business like as a whole. Like you just have so much more that you can do, so much more options, and then you can keep building from there. Like once you can build like even a single family, then you can learn how to build a multifamily. Once you learn how to build a multifamily, you can learn how to build a development, like a 100-unit property. Once you do that, maybe you can do hotels in a city. Once you do that, who knows? Like it just keeps expanding, and that's where the money is. Like that's huge, and that's where like you can get syndications going, people investing in your business even more, and really profit long term and build extreme wealth. And it seems like you're on that way, so just keep it up. I want to see something built with your name on it. Call it Bruno.
Oh yeah, dude, you'll see it too. I have some really cool plans for like a local, my neck of the woods in Putnam, a really cool project that Marco and I should be doing. I can't discuss too much about it publicly yet, but it's going to be really cool. And you're going to be like, you put that there? Like, that's how cool it's going to be.
And I think that's a dream of like all people that invest in real estate and on real estate, is to build something that you can leave on this earth, like physically forever. Like it'll be there until someone knocks it down. The next investor in 100 years comes by and says, hey, we're going to redo this.
That's fine.
But hopefully it won't be around to just see that happen. Just over like, I know you've talked about a lot of lessons and like things that you've learned from all these things, from flipping, from trying to get into development portion of your business business. But what is the one important lesson that you've learned over your career the most, maybe time and time again, that really stuck with you that you could pass on to some new investor or some veteran investor that might have not run into it yet?
What is the one thing I learned that really I think would help somebody the most? Is that what you're asking?
Yep. I mean, I'm sure you have hundreds of them, but one that the first one you think of that pops in your mind. Just
the first one I think of that pops in my mind is going to take longer than you thought, and it's going to cost more than you thought, but it's still worth it.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Straight up.
Yeah, real estate isn't a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah,
a lot of processes. I mean, you watch HGTV, you watch people do building on there, and they make it seem like it's so simple. They make it seem like flipping and all that stuff is so simple, and then people go out and do it, and they fail because it's actually harder than you think.
And you're gonna feel like an at first. Like I felt like a huge. But you got to like embrace that. You know, Jordan Peterson says, puts it a good way. He says you have to be okay with being the fool or you'll never be able to be a master. And it's true. Like when I first started, Marco was mentoring me and trying to teach me. And he would take me to a shitty property and be like, yo, how much do you think it would cost to fix this wall? I'm like, I don't know, like 10 grand. When I found out it was like $80 in materials, I felt what I mean. I feel like a lot of people, they feel those feelings and then they just give up. But it's not that you're not, you shouldn't give up. It's that, yeah, you are an but you can like move past that. And if you don't accept that and find out what you need to learn to not be an idiot, you're going to get crushed.
Yeah. I mean, you want to put yourself to be kind of the person in the room too, like you said before, because you're not learning if you're the smartest person in the room. Sure, you can help people and feel good about it, but
sorry, I was just going to say, like, it's so important to not be an who doesn't know he's stakes are high. When it's like walking through and learning, and if you totally, it's fine. But if you have mortgages and you're raising outside money and you're putting all of your liquid capital into something and you're really confident, but you're actually still then you might get screwed over and really hurt a lot of your relationships. Definitely learn early and calculate those risks.
For sure. Awesome. I mean, even with myself, when I first started, I went through the same thing that you kind of did. Like I would be looking at stuff like plumbing, electrical. I'm like, this is going to cost like, I was just like, I was just so off my numbers, but luckily I was off on the higher side because at least we were more conservative. I'm like putting down the numbers. I'm like, this is going to be so much to like freaking rehab. This is ridiculous. And then the quotes came back and I was like, oh, that's way less than I thought. It's still going to work.
All right. See, that's a good way to be naive.
Be conservative in nature, always.
You know, when you have an opportunity to jump on it, and people will disagree with this. Even some of my business partners who are more successful than me, they are more, they'll run their numbers a little more on risk side or like optimistic side. But I mean, I guess it's up to personal preference. I've always been pretty conservative when I run my numbers. That way, if it works, it's a home run. And if it's too tight and I think it's too tight and I don't want to take it, there's always more deals.
Exactly. Yeah. The more conservative you can run it, and if you run it conservatively to the point that you still like the deal, then you just have more opportunity to have kind of icing on that cake if it does better. But if it does hit your conservative numbers, it still works because that's what you wanted in the first place anyway. I want to go into asking you a little bit about some books that you've read just to help people out like that maybe want to get into reading, educating themselves. I know you talked a lot about podcasts that you listen to, but I know you're an avid reader and you've read a ton of books. So what are a couple of books that you would say for someone that wants to get into real estate investing or just start learning and educating themselves as they're working their W-2 to get started and towards the point that you're in your business? What are some initial books that you would recommend?
I am an avid reader and there's so much merit in reading the good books, but there's a lot of bad books out there. There's a lot of books out there that are just meant to get your attention, put you in a funnel and sell you something. The best books are the oldest books because back then the barrier to entry to write a book was very high. Now anybody can write a book, even if they don't have merit.
Yeah, anybody can write a book and then put bestseller on it.
Yeah, it's literally within 24 hours on Amazon. Back in the day, you had to have amounted a quite amount of influence and wealth for a publishing company even to take you on. My favorite book that I would recommend to anybody who wants to get into business at all, especially real estate, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book is going to serve you better than any other technical skill book or any other real estate strategy book. It's not about real estate at all, but real estate is 99% networking and like 1% courage. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I would say How to Win Friends and Influence People is number one. And then any of the intro to real estate investing, Brandon Turner, Bigger Pockets book is good for like your baseline real estate knowledge. It's hard for me to recommend one book on specifically real estate investing because I took the opposite approach and I read probably hundreds of books, every single one that I could get my hands on. And then I just took all the good stuff from each of them that I could because I didn't know what was going to be the best book. And I feel like they were all coming out like crazy. Like Bigger Pockets grew so fast. Like when it was initially, all of a sudden there was like 50 books published by Bigger Pockets. You couldn't even keep up with them if you tried.
Yeah.
But I would say for people in a W-2 looking to get into it, How to Get into Real Estate with Low Money Down by Brandon Turner is a fantastic one that's practical as hell. Like it'll give you steps that you can take in your position to buy your first property and get started. Fantastic. I did that and it worked really well for me. Outside of that, I would definitely read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you have lofty goals and you really want to get at them and you have people around you that have smaller goals, you have to read Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about it. Otherwise, if you don't have those concepts that are present in that book going into your head, the people around you, their concepts are going to start going through your head. And oftentimes you guys aren't on the same page. If you're somebody watching this and you have ambitious goals and like you're nervous to tell them to certain people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So do yourself a favor and crack that open.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, whoever you surround yourself with, what is a quote? Like you are the average of like the three people that you hang out with the most.
Right. I don't know if it's 3, 5, 2, or 1, but it's definitely true. There's no doubt about it.
And it doesn't go to say like you can't be friends with those people or hang out with them, but you just want to surround yourself with people that have the same kind of mindset of you. And if that includes just like, reading a book, consistently listening to podcasts that have that same type of mindset, and that's all you can really get because maybe you're not surrounded by those people. That's a great way to get into it. And I think that book, I still have to read that book. Think
and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. Yeah. And people have told me to read it a lot.
You would love it.
Yeah, I definitely would. And I'm reading the 7 Habits
of Highly Effective People.
Yeah, that's one that I'm reading right now. I'm reading like 4 books at one time, and I should probably calm down and just focus on one because I like balance.
I know the struggle, bro. It's like every day someone recommends 6 books to you, and you're like, you end up buying them. They stack up.
I know. Then you're like reading one and you read the other, and you're like, what? And you're like, I'm reading too much. I need to focus on this one and get through it, and then go to the next one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're just so exciting. But just to wrap this up, I just want to give you a little bit of time. Anything else you'd like to tell the audience about yourself, how to contact you, your social media handles, maybe meetups that you attend or regularly go to, or even that you run? Any like charity events maybe that you have, business links, and if you just want to go over some of that so people can reach out to you and get to know you more, even learn from you if needed.
For sure, bro. Thank you. I'm pretty active on social media as much as I can be. You guys can follow me at Bruno Buys Houses on pretty much everything. If you want to reach out to me on a more intimate level, you can reach me at bruno@brunobuys.com. That's my email. Just whatever it is that you think I could help with, send it over. I'll give it a read. And if I think it's worth our while, I'll definitely respond either way. I'm at the point in my career where for me to grow, I need people to grow within my organization, and truly believe that giving starts the receiving process and goodwill multiplies faster than money. I'm trying to find people who are very eager and sharp and have good personality traits that I can get behind, honor and integrity, and want to take this business a really solid level. I'm happy to spend my time teaching them and showing them the ropes. And what ends up happening is these people bring deals that maybe are a little bit farther past their current skill level, and it ends up becoming a huge opportunity where we can partner on it together. They get somebody like me with a bunch of experience to hold their hand through their first deal, and we get to do it together, and really helps with my national scaling efforts. And it's just a win-win for everybody. The more people I can help achieve their goals, the easier it'll be for me to achieve my goals, especially when I have goals in the 5 figures of unit count. So again, just reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram at Bruno Buys Houses. Shoot me an email, bruno@brunobuys.com. In terms of networking events, I go to as many local ones as I can. I also have an amazing wife and a beautiful daughter and another one on the way. So I stay pretty busy with the home life as much as I can. With that being said, it is still really important to me to get out there and meet everybody in this space. You guys will be able to see me post links to events that I'll be going to, speaking at, and just hanging out at all over my social media. I look forward to seeing some of you guys there. I know you've been to a few of them yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, networking is part of real estate, and you got to meet people to keep growing. So what's the saying? Your network is your net worth. I don't like saying that, but it is kind of true.
It's oversaid, but it is very true. Yeah,
it's a little oversaid. But yeah, just to touch on that, I know Bruno, and he's a guy that you can reach out to always, and I'll try to help you out. He always has good information to tell you, and if you need any advice, he's always there, willing to give it, because he's about just giving back to people and just helping everybody. Very moral guy. It's a good opportunity to work with a experienced investor, because a lot of first-time investors, maybe wholesalers or something, that are scared to get into their first deal. Instead, they just sell them off. Like Bruno will literally work with you, partner with you to even teach you the ropes so you can actually start doing it yourself too. And a lot of investors don't do that. And Bruno is one that he's all about giving back to people. So maybe in the future, they'll give back to him. You got to give some to get some. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. I can say the same about you, brother. For real. It's really nice to be able to surround myself with people like this. And honestly, I don't know if you've talked about your multifamily burr that you did here in Putnam on this podcast yet, but I'm sure people would love to hear that story too. And I have the pleasure of helping you finish up one of the units there. And let me just tell you, that was a solid play, man. So congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, they say you get a little lucky. I might have got a little lucky, but I also created my own luck. You create your own luck. You keep working, you find stuff, you run the numbers, and then you create your own luck. Yeah, I'm excited to post about that and just have a little one-on-one segment of me just going through that whole process. Maybe a case study on it, of what I learned learned and everything from it,
Yeah,
just to help
looking forward to it,
educate
bro.
people. But all right, I won't keep you long because I know you got meetings going on. You got a construction company to run. You got stuff going on left and right. I really appreciate you coming on here, and hopefully we'll get you back on here in the future too. And we'll see you. We'll talk about some developments that you have going on and have built, which would be amazing.
For sure, bro. I'm very much looking forward to it. And thank you again for all the kind words and for having me on today, bro. Hopefully you watchers got some value out of this, and I'll talk to y'all soon.
Awesome.
Take care.
Take care.